And Ted's here to give us his top tips on just working the supermarket, from what to buy, how to know if it's fresh or not, and how to get out of the store quick, right?
That's right, and how to save money.
And how to save money, which everybody cares about. You don't like throwing food away, and you don't like food that costs a lot of money. All of our marketplaces today have artisanal breads and fancy this and that. Tons of variety, but it costs a lot of money. You don't want to waste that money.
No, I can't stand wasting food, and we waste something like 40% of the food that we buy in the United States.
Isn't that chilling?
It's rough, and there are ways to work around it. Planning is one of them, but I have lots of good tips, I think, to help you out.
You want to start in produce?
Why don't we start in produce?
Okay.
And by the way, when you're in the grocery store, try to stick to the perimeter of the store where they sell fresh, real, whole food. So the number one most important thing to know about saving money and having the best food is to shop and cook seasonally.
That's right.
Buy things when they're fresh, ripe, in season. If you and I lived in a little village in Italy, we might have a supermarket, but we would also shop at farmers markets.
Right.
And farmers markets in Italy or in the United States, where we have farmers markets as well, only sell food that is fresh and ripe and in season. That's all they have. They grew it locally. It's abundant and delicious.
And you're cutting
the
out
price
the
is lower.
middleman. That's right, and the prices are lower.
The prices are lower.
And at farmers markets, you can ask for what's called seconds. If you're going to cook the tomatoes, for instance, or you're going to cook the vegetables, the seconds look imperfect, but they're perfectly fine. They're just selling them at a much lower price. That's a good trick.
That's a great segue to one of the tips I want to offer, which is look for so-called ugly fruit.
That's right.
Like, see this melon? This melon has this bare patch on it that's not as beautiful as a food stylist might want.
Right.
But we're doing this for a reason. This tells you that this melon sat on its side in a field and it ripened in the field on the stem.
Right.
And the same is true of tomatoes are better when they ripen on the vine. No one's going to give you a better tomato than you're going to grow yourself.
Right.
The tomatoes in a commercial supermarket are put on the truck green. They ripen on the truck. They ripen in the warehouse, and they're not as sweet. Basically, with vegetables like, say, corn or peas, they're tasty and sweet because they have lots of sugars in them. Mm-hmm. The second you pick that corn or you pick those peas, those sugars start converting to starch. That's why you want to get those products as fresh as you can, and sometimes better off buying. I got an ah. I got an ah. But it's true, and for that reason, sometimes it's better to buy frozen peas and frozen corn because they're frozen quickly when they're still sweet. Now,
and we were talking a lot about corn, but at the end of the season for corn, I bring corn home, and you can blanch your own vegetables and make your own frozen food. When the prices are best and when the produce is the best, buy excess, bring it home, blanch it. Then I put it on a sheet tray so it stays nice and loose, and then throw it in a baggie and date it, throw it in your own freezer.
And by the way, say in the summer when blueberries are in season, they're expensive when they're out of season.
That's
but when they're in season, they cost half the price. We like to take blueberries and freeze them on a sheet tray and just snack on them.
They're
frozen.
delicious.
They're really, really good. Grapes also freeze really well.
Grapes are great in the freezer.
Frozen grapes, they're wonderful in cocktails. They're just a nice.
That's right, because they don't make the cocktail watery, just cold.
That's right. That's a great tip. Frozen grapes instead of ice cubes in your drink. Keep the drink cold, and they're also not going to water down.
And if it has bubbles in it, the yeast on the outside of the grape keep the bubbles going, too.
That's right.
We could do this all day.
We could talk cocktails all day, but let's get back to wholesome, delicious produce.
Okay.
So when you're buying sweet corn, you want to buy it in season. You always want to pull the husk back a little bit and check to make sure that the kernels are plump and juicy, and that'll tell. And if they look dried out, don't buy it. Now, you might be off-put by the fact that this looks like some little critter has gotten to this ear of corn, and you might think that's bad news. I'll tell you once, it's not. It's good news. I once brought home some organic corn and peeled back the husk.
And the critter was in there.
I found a living critter lounging on my corn, and I dropped it because I've kind of freaked out. But that's actually good news. It tells you that the corn truly is natural and organic and wasn't sprayed with something because the critter's alive.
Critters away.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you can share that much of your corn with the critters. Come on. They got to eat too.
Good.
We're now applauding critters, by the way.
Right. Let the critters have some too.
Hey.
What do you think about these salad in a sack or prepared produce, semi-prepared produce?
Well, lettuce in a bag can be helpful if it's labeled that you don't have to rinse it again, that you don't have to wash it. If you have to wash it, why buy it? This costs probably about $4, and a head of lettuce costs less than that, and it has a lot more lettuce than this has. Another tip about these bagged lettuces: I don't like to buy mixes of multiple kinds of lettuce. because one of those heads of lettuce is almost certainly older than the other two.
Exactly.
And so one's going to go bad
wet
first.
and musty pieces of the smaller bits of lettuce. Sometimes they're even treated with citric acid or something. They just smell musty. You're always going to get more for your money if you do a little bit of the work. Washing a head of lettuce is not that big of a deal.
I mean, we're all trying to save time and money,
Right.
but if you get a salad spinner and wash it yourself, I just think it tastes better. I just think it's
I agree.
better crunch.
And you get more for your money.
Now, some people say that if you are buying bagged lettuce, to watch out for a bag of lettuce that looks puffed out, because that means it's started to go bad.
It's starting to go, and the
sends off
gases,
gases.
right,
Yeah.
the gases get
And by the way,
trapped.
one more point about seasonal cooking. Cook and shop seasonally. Buy things when they are in season.
Right.
Asparagus is a spring vegetable. Now, we live in America where we want access to whatever food we want,
Right.
whenever we want, but if you buy asparagus in the spring, it's about $3 a pound. If you buy it in December, it's about $6 a pound because someone had to fly it from Peru or
Exactly,
someplace.
exactly.
And it's therefore older, it's not as fresh, it's out of season, it's more expensive. This is a spring. When you and I
That's
live
right.
in our little village in Italy, we're going to eat asparagus in the spring, we're going to eat tomatoes in August, and then all winter long, all we have is turnips and
Squash.
potatoes.
Yes.
So that's that.
Okay, what are we going to talk about over here?
Okay, so here we have a beautiful chalkboard illustration that's telling us we can buy three sodas for $5 or 10 limes for $1.
Right.
My store often has a special on limes, 10 for $1. There's no law that says you actually have to buy 10, unless you're making
That's the marketing, right?
Exactly. Now, if you're making margaritas, not that you would do that.
My husband does.
He's a handy guy to have around.
Yeah, he
you
is.
might need 10 limes if you're making margaritas. Otherwise, you probably just want a couple of them, and you'll get 2 limes for 20 cents.
Right. You don't have to buy the number that's on the board.
No, there's no
It's
law.
like programming.
There is no law. Okay.
All right, let's go to the checkout.
Let's go. So now, Rachel, I want to give you some advice that is counterintuitive.
Okay.
Get it? Checkout counter?
Very punny, honey.
So let's say you're in the market and you see one line that has a person with a full cart and another line that has, say, 3 people with just a few items apiece. Which one are you going to pick?
Probably the few items apiece.
Wrong.
Take the one with a lot of things in her cart.
There are very, very uptight people who study this kind of thing. And there are people who are in a real hurry. They must be New Yorkers. They're in such a hurry. It takes about 41 seconds for a cashier to greet you, to say hello, to say paper or plastic, and it takes about 3 seconds per item to ring up those items. So if you've got 4 people with 5 items apiece, they're going to take longer to check out than 1 person with 20 items.
Wow.
I mean, if you're so manic that you're in that kind of a hurry, you might need a therapist in addition to a grocery store, but anyway.
Well, I always look at the full cart people and I'm like, there's going to be a lot of paperwork involved there. That's a person who planned and they got coupons. I feel it.
Yeah, okay. Now, I don't mean to be unkind, but I also recommend do not get behind anybody holding a checkbook.
Yeah.
It's
Do they still make checks?
I know. It's 2016, folks. So, and one more little tip. So, if you want to be helpful, you know what your cashier is looking for, of course, is this barcode because that's
Right.
what they scan. You can actually hand the item to them where they can see the code. They scan it, they put it in your bag, and you're on your merry way.
I also organize my basket because I'm kooky that way. Like the stuff that goes together in that area of the pantry, the stuff that goes in this part of the house, so that when I'm unpacking, like that whole bag is going to one place or another.
You might need some therapy as well. But, no, I think that's logical. In New York City, we have recycling for paper, for bottles,
Right.
and then we have regular garbage. And when I put those bags out on the sidewalk, I organize them for the garbage
Right.
guys because I want to help them out. And
Okay, well, we're both in the same headspace.
yeah, you're right. We need the same therapist.